In the desert, where the wind scraped across the sand like a dry harp string, a miracle was being built. Not with marble from a king's quarry, not with gold gathered from a nation's vault, but with what the people had carried out of Egypt: bronze rings, silver clasps, acacia wood, blue cloth, purple thread, scarlet yarn, fine linen, oil, spices, and stones that reflected the firelight like captured stars. Among the workers stood Bezalel. He was not a prince, not a priest, not a prophet with thunder in his voice. He was a craftsman, a son of the tribe of Judah, a man with strong hands and watchful eyes. Yet the Lord had filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and skill in all kinds of craftsmanship. When Moses brought the command, the camp grew quiet. The tabernacle was to be made exactly as the Lord had shown on the mountain: curtains, frames, sockets, coverings. An ark of acacia wood overlaid with gold, a lampstand hammered from one piece of pure gold, and an altar where worship would rise like incense before heaven. Bezalel knelt in the sand with a piece of wood in his hands. It was plain timber, rough from the desert. To many, it was only a branch, but he saw more. He saw beams that would bear holy curtains, poles that would carry the ark, and boards that would stand in obedience. He ran his hand along the grain and whispered a prayer before every cut. The work was hard. Copper had to be melted and shaped. Linen had to be woven without flaw. Gold had to be beaten thin, not by force but by patience. Threads had to be dyed with care. Every hammer strike echoed across the camp like a small confession. This is for the Lord. Some of the people watched in silence. They had thought holiness belonged only to altars and sacrifices. But now they saw that holiness could live in a craftsman's workshop too. The same God who divided the sea also cared about measurements, stitches, and joins. The same Lord who sent manna from heaven also guided the hand that carved cherubim into gold. One morning, a young laborer came to Bezalel carrying a dented copper basin. "Master," he said, "this is all I have. It is stained, scratched, and old. Can it really be used for something sacred?" Bezalel lifted it into the sun. The metal was dull, but not useless. "In the hands of the Lord," he replied, "nothing given in faith remains common." He placed the basin with the others, and before long it was polished, shaped, and fitted into the court of the tabernacle. What had once been discarded became part of the place where Israel would meet their God. When the final pieces were assembled, the tabernacle stood in the wilderness like a breath of heaven on earth. Its coverings shone in the morning light. Its posts were steady. Its veil hid the most holy place, where the glory of God would dwell among his people. And when Moses saw the completed work, he knew it was not merely craftsmanship. It was obedience transformed into beauty. It was human skill appointed by divine purpose. Then a woman from the camp, standing beside her child, asked the question many had been carrying in their hearts. Why would God care so much about wood, thread, and metal? Moses answered gently, because the Lord is not only making a dwelling for his presence. He is teaching his people that every gift, every skill, and every humble thing can be offered to him. He turns desert materials into holy things, and willing hearts into instruments of his glory. The child looked at the shining tabernacle and asked, "Can he do that with me too?" "Yes," Moses said, "if you offer him your hands, your work, and your life." So the desert was not empty after all. It was the place where God showed that ordinary labor, surrendered in faith, can become sacred. Question: what made Bezalel's work holy? Answer: it was not the materials themselves, but the Spirit of God, the obedience of the worker, and the purpose of glorifying the Lord. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more Bible faith adventure. Lesson: when we give God our rawest skills and simplest offerings, He can transform them into something beautiful, holy, and in the dim light of the wilderness camp, where the tents of Israel stretched across the sand like a sea of canvas, One man sat before a small loom and listened. The wind whispered over the desert. The camp murmured with the sounds of daily life. Nearby, children laughed, men hammered, and women drew water. But Oholiab heard another sound beneath it all, the quiet call of God. He was not Moses. He was not Aaron. His name was not spoken with trumpets. Yet the Lord had chosen him, together with Bezalel, to help build the tabernacle, the holy dwelling place where God would meet his people. Oholiab was a craftsman, a weaver, a man whose hands knew flax, wool, thread, and color. He could twist blue and purple yarn into beauty, and his eye could measure patterns that others could not imagine. Still, Oholiab knew that skill alone was not enough. Each dawn, before the first strand was touched, he lifted his face toward heaven and prayed, "Lord, let my work honor you." Then he took up the flax. The fibers were rough at first, stubborn and plain. He combed them, cleaned them, spun them, and wove them thread by thread. Sometimes the work was slow. Sometimes his fingers ached. Sometimes a strand snagged, and the whole pattern had to be adjusted. But Oholiab did not curse the delay. He believed that every careful motion could become an offering. One day, a young apprentice watched him in frustration. "Master," the boy asked, "why are you so patient with one small stitch? No one will even notice it under the veil." Oholiab smiled without stopping his hands. The Holy One sees what people overlook. If he has called this veil to stand before his presence, should we give him careless work? The boy was silent. Oholiab then drew the shuttle through the threads again, smooth and steady. "Listen," he said, "the sacred thing is not made sacred by gold alone. It becomes holy when the worker remembers whom he serves. A faithful heart can turn ordinary labor into worship." The apprentice looked at the cloth. What seemed like simple weaving now appeared different. Every color had purpose. Every strand had order. Every repeated movement seemed to say, "Here I am, Lord." As the days passed, the veil began to take shape. Blue like the evening sky, purple like royal robes, scarlet like fire, and linen fine as breath, all joined into one great work. Yet the most beautiful thing about it was not only the fabric. It was the discipline behind it. Oholiab rose early. He worked steadily. He did not rush the holy task. He did not grow proud of his talent. He treated each thread as something entrusted by God. When at last the tabernacle was finished, it stood in the center of Israel's camp like a shining testimony. The Lord had chosen to dwell among his people. And though many admired the gold, the boards, and the curtains, heaven had also seen the quiet faithfulness of a weaver who had made his hands obedient to God. Years later, the apprentice, now an old man, would tell his children, "I once asked why one stitch mattered. Oholiab taught me that every act done for God matters. A shelf may be hidden, a veil may rest in shadow, a prayer may be whispered, but nothing offered to the Lord is wasted." Question: what did Oholiab's secret really teach? Answer: it taught that discipline becomes worship when a heart stays near God, and that even the most ordinary work can become holy when it is done for His glory. So if your task feels small today, your work unseen, your service unnoticed, your steps repetitive, remember Oholiab at the loom. Stay faithful in the thread, faithful in the stitch, faithful in the waiting. God can use steady hands and a surrendered heart to build something beautiful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more Bible faith adventure. The lesson of the story is this: when we offer our daily work to God with discipline and devotion, even the simplest labor becomes a sacred act of worship. One spark, one hammer blow, one nation waiting for redemption. When the sun rose over the dusty edge of the wilderness, Eli lifted a strip of beaten bronze and watched it catch the light like fire. His hands were rough, his shoulders tight, and the scars on his fingers told the story of years spent under Egyptian masters. Once, those hands had shaped bricks, fittings, and tools for men who did not know Israel's God. Now, As the people of Israel camped beneath the open sky, those same hands were being called to something holy. Eli had not always understood why God had allowed him to learn the craft of metalworking in Egypt. In the dark years of slavery, it had seemed cruel. Every command had come with a lash, every skill with sorrow. He learned to melt copper, to hammer gold, to polish wood, to measure with care, to make a thing beautiful enough for a palace he would never enter. And yet, when Israel was led out by the mighty hand of the Lord, Eli carried with him more than pain. He carried skill. One morning, Moses gathered the people and announced that the Lord desired a dwelling among them, a tabernacle, a holy tent, a place where God would meet his people in mercy and glory. Gold, silver, bronze, acacia wood, fine linen, dyed yarn, and precious stones were brought by willing hearts. Eli stood among the workers, stunned. The very knowledge forged in bondage was now needed for freedom. He was appointed to help fashion the sacred vessels, the basins for washing, the hooks and clasps for the curtains, the lampstand that would shine before the Lord, and the bronze altar where sacrifices would be made. As he worked, Eli remembered the furnace of Egypt. There, the fire had felt like judgment. Here, the same fire purified and transformed. There, he had been forced to make things for the pride of Pharaoh. Here, he labored to prepare a dwelling for the presence of the living God. Day by day, the camp became a workshop of worship. Women spun thread with grateful hands. Men lifted beams and woven cloth. Children watched with wide eyes as the holy tent took shape. Eli, once ashamed of the years he had lost, began to see that nothing given by God is wasted. The discipline, the endurance, the precision, even the pain, all of it had become material in the Lord's hands. When the golden lampstand was completed, its branches glowed in the desert light like a tree of flame. Eli stepped back, overwhelmed. He had hammered it with hands once bound in slavery. The vessel was not merely beautiful, it was a testimony. It proclaimed that God could take what was broken, oppressed, and stained by suffering and make it fit for his glory.